right, it's 5 o'clock. We're going to start the Finance Committee. Hello out there. 5 o'clock, we're going to start the meeting. We're going to change the agenda up a little bit. We have 3 items on the Finance Committee agenda. The first one is the legal contract, and I'm going to have Kelly Lehman explain what that's about.
We have a contract that we've proposed to go into with the local firm of Starr, Austin, and Miller. We have been working with Andrew Miller and Jacob O'Brien in their offices, but we have been sued in federal court by Republic, saying that we didn't pay them enough money. We think we paid them too much, and when we told them that, they have filed a lawsuit against us for around $146,000. And so this is money to help pay for the legal representation in federal court on that case.
And if we win the case, they would pay our attorney fees?
There is provision in the contract for both sides that could prevail, would be at the cost of litigation. So those are always problematic, to get all those. But it is that in your costs of experts and anything else that you add.
So we just brought this before the council. It's part of the agreement with Kelly and contracts. Anything outside of his normal duties, we can contract that out. We do have funding available in the rainy day fund if it would be settled before this year, and it wasn't in our favor. But I think that this is one that everyone can agree to, that we followed the stipulations, I believe, in our contract with them, notified them of their poor service and lack of diligence, and it was not corrected. So we terminated their contract early, and their contention is that we should pay the contract to the end of the term. So we'll just have to see how it plays out. But so we just wanted to get that in front of you guys to let you know that that contract's going to be out there. Next on the agenda is the additional appropriations for the police and fire. There really wasn't much to send out to you. If you look at the ordinance in your packet, both the police and fire have had circumstances somewhat beyond their control. If I can get Matt and Sean to come up and maybe say just a couple words about the circumstances. They've currently run out of overtime pay for their in their budget, and they're asking for enough funds to get them to the end of the year.
Thank you for having us up here. Basically, due to our staffing shortages, we're about 25% short on our staffage. So with other officers covering shifts, so on and so forth, we still continue to train. Our K-9 officers still continue to train. We have people that wear multiple hats within our department, whether they're instructors or SWAT or K-9. So the overtime tends to go up pretty quick, especially when they're short-staffed and they can't take time off. So what we're asking is that we're able to use some of our salary money that's, that we're obviously almost 10 short, to have that put over to pay out some overtime so it's not so high right now, and get that paid down to where we can try to keep it at a moderate level, and in hopes, again, we have one in the academy now, and then once he gets out, then we'll have another one going in. We have another officer that just got out of the academy, is almost through the FTO program, so that'll give us another officer on the road. But ultimately, being down to where we're at, it's one of those things where the community has to be served, and we have to continue to train. So.
And there was some discussion with BJ and myself about some possible options that we may bring to the table to help mitigate that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions for Sean?
Well, what do you mean when you say bring some things to the table to help mitigate that?
Well, one of the things that they've talked about, and I'll let you kind of explain it.
Well,
if you would.
basically, we figured at our least senior officer, if we pay him overtime, we're paying around $45, $47 an hour overtime. What we've thought about doing, and other departments do, I believe Monticello does, I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of the other one, where they offer part-time employment to other officers to come in and supplement their shortage. If we set a rate of, say, $30 an hour, or even $35 an hour, to have officers from surrounding agencies come in, work overtime for us to cover our shifts so that our people could be off, we're still paying way less in overtime at $30 an hour than we are at $47 an hour. So those are things that we explored and talked about.
What are you doing to improve your hiring circumstances? What are you doing to try to get your staff back up to where it needs to be, which I think is 39?
Yes.
And you're at 30 presently?
Yeah, those are things that we talked about with Councilman Cox and Councilman Morris about, what we're doing internally to try to retain officers and try to keep guys there. And then also what we could do to be competitive with surrounding agencies. And again, it's kind of in its infancy stages of, what we could try to do. But yeah, one thing we've done is shorten our hiring process as far as, it used to be, you would do a pre-app and then turn that in. You would do your physical agility testing, you would do your written test, and then we would do our background investigations. Once they passed the physical agility and the written test, then they would be given a full app. And that full app would contain, a multitude of different things. So they would do that. We would give them about a 2-week period to fill that out, turn it in, and then we would hand that out to our pension board members where then they could start doing their background investigation. So what we've tried to do is put that all into one. So now when somebody goes to fill out an app, it's a full app. And then that way, once they turn that in and pass their physical agility and their written test, we already have their full app. There's no 2-week delay. And then we can start a background investigation. So hopefully by doing that, we can get more hiring processes in during the year versus what it's been, to try to speed that up in order to get more hires.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Chief Heisman? Matt, you want to kind of fill in for Jason here and
Yeah,
tell
I'm
us
filling
what
in for
your
Jason. He's
situation is?
on a vacation. So we are fully staffed according to our 34 roster. We have had one firefighter retire this year. We've had one that quit for other employment. We have 2 firefighters that were off on workman's comp injuries. The guy that left and the workman's comp are kind of some unforeseen instances there. And it's hit us hard. It's hit us hard on the overtime. But to be moving forward on this, we have moved, under Chief Bear, we moved a guy into our inspector's position, okay, which leaves one shift short. Now, that inspector's position is a much-needed position. He's doing a lot of good work through the city. However, that takes a guy out of my shift, C shift. So we were at one short, and to combat this, if we're going to pay time and a half, a tune of maybe, if it's $40,000 that I believe the chief had in a line item, and we're talking about $47,000 we spent so far, that's another position. Moving forward, I don't know why we would want to continue to pay someone at time and a half when we could put someone in there full time and have each shift the same. Moving forward to mitigate this. Something to think about.
Any other questions for Matt? You guys okay with moving this to tonight's agenda?
Yes, I am.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Next up is the Parks Department's request for a matching grant. What I would like to do to start with is, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody that's come tonight. If you have any interest in speaking at the meeting, there's a sign-up sheet over there. You need to put your name on the sign-up sheet, and we'll call you up as we get to you on the list. So if you haven't signed the sheet over there, I would ask that you get up and sign the sheet, and then we'll go through the list of, as we get to those public input. There's a separate sheet. There's a separate sheet over there. If you've signed up to attend, that's one thing. In attendance, if you're signing up to speak, you need to sign the sheet also. There should be more than one there if it's needed. And Mike, have you got the map up now? All right. What I'd like to do to start with is just a brief overview of what's on the screen now, hopefully. Mike's, there you go, Mike's got it up on the screen now. The other screen's not working, Mike?
The other screen is going to be for Jan's presentation. There.
Are these not able to be on?
No.
Okay, all right. They're not yet set up? Okay. All right. All right. Well, what I'd like to start out with tonight is I want to read, first off, I want to read a letter from the mayor. The mayor was unfortunately out of town today, so he has sent a letter to the council. So the first thing I'd like to do is just read the mayor's letter to you so that you know that the mayor has a position on this issue and exactly what his stance is or what his opinion is at this time. It says, hello, council members. Unfortunately, I had committed to attending the Indiana Conference of Mayors held in Greensburg this week prior to the scheduling of the special council meeting for Wednesday evening. With the increased interest in the Parks Grant and with the likelihood of many public comments, I thought it would be important to have my opinions on the subject known to you since I am not able to attend in person. I am in full support of approving the match commitment for the grant. Funding opportunities of this level to enhance our parks do not come along often. I understand having future budget concerns in mind, but that is why it's important, more important than ever, to identify opportunities in our city like this project to gain additional resources from the state and or federal governments for strategic investments in our key public spaces. That being said, I am not in support of the portion of the design which appears to remove the current pavilion, which formerly held the carousel, and the total removal of the train tracks. I believe that many upgrades within the Riverside Park plan can be accomplished while leaving these elements in place. Even with the addition of a trackless train to the parks, which I would support if they can raise the funds, I think there is room to leave space for operating the train, possibly with some track modifications, shift in exact location, track length, etc. In fact, the group I was working with at the last Riverside Park planning meeting proposed a park design which kept these nostalgic elements while still accommodating many of the proposed upgrades. I think taking another look at that version would be prudent for the design team. While there is some work to be done on the exact scope and final product, I believe that we should take advantage of this opportunity to enhance Riverside Park for future generations to enjoy. I suggest that you vote to approve the funding match for the application and that we all engage further with the Parks Board and staff on improving the final design to reflect some of the comments which have been and will be received from interested members of the community. So that's the mayor's position on that. The second thing that I'd like to mention also is that I want to thank the people that actually took the time to send us emails. That's the proper means of communicating with us or calling us directly. I want to thank these people for sending me their messages. I believe everyone on the council got these. I'm going to read their names and a couple of the concerns from each of these letters. Mary Donovan sent a letter. She focused on the train and the old carousel building. Larry Hayden, I have a note here, his was very brief. He just says, I'm against the proposal. Victoria Kleckner, she says we don't have the money. She talks about the pool. Sounds like there may be some issues at the pool that need to be addressed. She talked about little scooters. The only thing I'd say about the little scooters is that they did not cost the city a dime. That was all private entity, and it was not profitable, so it's no longer here. She talks a little bit about the pickleball courts. Crystal Miller focused on the pavilion, the train. There was somewhat of a common theme, actually. She says preservation shouldn't be an obstacle to progress. Preservation is progress. She talks about the basketball courts. Just for clarity, there's 3 basketball courts at Riverside Park. There's one that's old, has no lighting. That is the one that was proposed to be taken out. There's 2 brand new basketball courts that still remain at the park. First was quite lengthy. There's some other things there. Jane Williams talks about the train, preserving the carousel pavilion, talks a little bit about maintenance, her opinion on maintenance at the parks. Sent a picture about some issues she saw. Sherry Sparks loves the train, loves the carousel, the old building, says she has family picnics in that old carousel, and has pictures of a couple different generations riding the train down there. Liz Smith, carousel, the gazebo, concerned about the question with pickleball courts. Are more pickleball courts necessary? And concerned about a stage being constructed there because it might compete with all of the other music already going on in town. Those are just a few of the notes. And so I guess what I'd say now is I watched the Parks Board meeting. I didn't attend it. Shortly after the Parks Board meeting, I reached out to Dan Williams, BJ, and asked if we could sit down and talk. We sat down and talked, and I believe that we kind of came to an understanding. One of the things that I will say, and this is my opinion, I don't maybe share the opinion of others, but they have a lease agreement with the parks, and I think that lease agreement needs to be respected. Whether we think it's the legality or whatever, it's a lease. We've signed that lease, and we talked about how do we move forward with improving the parks and improving the carousel and the train itself. And I spoke to Jan about it. She seemed open-minded about those prospects. And then I went and talked to Jan, like I said, and we talked about the softball diamond. And I guess, a little bewildered by the fact that I watched 2 hours in a Parks Board meeting, and I told Jan this. We had evidently had communication with the softball league in advance of that meeting. The discussion was that they wanted them to consider partnering with the Babe Ruth facility to play softball over at Fairview Park. much better playground or ballpark, and that would utilize that baseball field more readily, and the option to possibly remove the other softball field then wasn't an issue. Quite honestly, I counted up, we have at least 6 ball fields in the city of Logansport. A couple the school own, we own 3 at Fairview Park, we own 1 at Melbourne Park. So there's at least 6 ball diamonds. It's not, I guess the thing that I'm saying is the consideration here would be, we don't have, when I was a kid, you might not even make a team. There were so many kids that wanted to play baseball. Now they struggle to find enough kids to play baseball because they have so many other things that they're offered in a summertime setting. So in that meeting, it sounded like they had already reached an agreement. So I know since that time, Dave Smith, who has reached back out to Dave Harden and John Burke. I think they've met over at the field again. And I believe, I will, if there's a question about the validity, I would just say they have told me that they fully support that move. They're talking about doing a little transition in the next year, play at both fields, just to give their teams a feel for playing on a different diamond. But those are the things that have come to light. And then the one thing that at the Parks Board meeting that confused me the most was the conversation for the grant didn't match up with what people were looking at. The picture of the parks itself was a multi-phase project. The first phase, which is what they're asking for a grant for now, should be the picture you see up here now. And if you take a look at this, and I'm going to stop to let Jan say hers, but these are my observations, and I wanted to put them out there at the start to hopefully clear up a few of the confusing things. First of all, and I didn't even realize this when I met with Dan Williams and Ernie about the carousel and the train, the pavilion, if you see in this picture, all of the things that we're asking to do in this next stage have no effect on the train or the carousel building that's sitting there currently. That would be years down the road. We're talking 2 years from now just to accomplish what you see on the map up here. So those are non-issues that can be worked out as we make the improvements that we're looking at here. The only question left was the softball field. There were concerns about additional maintenance, but personally speaking, I don't know how you could have any more maintenance. There's a little, where the sand was, you'll have to mow now, but you don't have fences to deal with and whatnot. But anyway, I've said enough. You can see on the map what's actually being requested to be done with this next phase of grant funding. And I'll leave it to you, Jan, to say whatever you'd like at this point.
Thank you. Thanks for hearing us tonight. I'm saying us as the Parks Board and Park staff. Riverside Park serves as the community's gateway to the Eel River and is home to the historic Cass County Dental Carousel, one of Logansport's most treasured public assets. As the most visited park in Logansport Park System, Riverside Park has been identified in our master plan as the city's highest investment priority, recognizing its potential to serve as both a premier community park and a regional destination for outdoor recreation. People are at the heart of our project, with amenities designed to foster intergenerational interaction and provide recreational opportunities for individuals of all abilities. Pathways will enhance accessibility and connectivity through the park, creating safe and welcoming routes that encourage walking, exploration, and access to recreational amenities. Pavilions and gathering spaces will support family reunions, community events, educational programs, and everyday social interactions. Playgrounds will be the project's signature feature, highlighted by the innovative Smart Play Volo Air structure, complemented by play experiences that engage children of varying ages and abilities while promoting physical activity. I've given each of you on the Parks Board this map, or this illustration, but I guess I want to say that 23% of our population is under the age of 18, 20% is above the age of 65 or older, 12% is residents report a disability, and 26% of our households have children or seniors, which makes us a multi-generational community. 40% of our Cass County adults are considered obese, and the top need for that, to help fight that, is physical activity. What our community told us during the master planning process was then this is the top priorities that we're trying to address, was playgrounds for all ages and abilities, walking trails and connections, pavilions, shelters, and picnic areas, health, fitness, and active recreation, and access to nature in the Eel River. And we probably the access to the river is the one thing we're not able to accomplish because of the permitting process that takes, and the extraordinary amount of money that would take too. And so we're feeling like this is staying within the green space there on the east end of the park is our best plan of action. We also did a, there we go. Over for July 4th and at the fair, so it was 3 different times. We offered people the chance to say what are their top 4 choices in what we want to see done at Riverside Park. And of course, the first one was the River Boardwalk, and the second was the playground. The third was the kayak launch, and an outfit like that really is more of a concession kind of thing. It wouldn't be something we would do. It would have to be somebody that we would have a business with, that they would do that. That's too much of a, that's a pretty swanky looking kayak launch. But, and then shade was a really important thing for the community, and so was the pavilions, both the event and the picnic pavilion. Both of those are really important to people. Universal design principles influenced the project from the earliest stages of planning and guided the selection, placement, and connection of every major recreation amenity. Riverside Park 2.0 is a phased renovation project aimed at creating a comprehensive community park built around the 4 guiding principles of people, pathways, pavilions, and playgrounds. This phase of the project, partially funded, hopefully, by the Land and Water Conservation Fund, will include the construction of the Smart Play. Oh, well, this is all backwards, shoot. I'm backwards. There we go. There's the playground. That's the playground structure. You're not seeing this, are you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Oh,
Yeah,
you
we
are?
see the arrow.
No, she has a whole PowerPoint up that she's showing.
Oh, I
Oh,
just,
well, anyway, I'm sorry.
oh, no. Oh, I was just looking where the arrow was.
Anyway, this is called the Smart Play Volo Air Destination Playground. It is capable of probably holding 30, 40 kids on it at a time. There's lots of different things to be able to do. The neat thing about the inside of it is that it's all netting, and it winds its way up to the very top. So even a child who is who has at least arm strength but maybe no legs to do something like this, they can get themselves all the way to the top and slide down that slide. So one of 3 slides in this case. So there would also be a 2 to 5 year structure. You can see it back here in the back of it as well. And 6 or 8 swings, and then a spinner and a couple other little activity things. The main thing there is shade as well. That would go around the main design. There's also an event pavilion, and I believe I have a donor to pay for the entire construction of that event pavilion, and that's located about where the third base dugout is currently. See right up in here, in the top right here. And then a picnic pavilion that's closer to the carousel and the playground is located right along the road there. The bathrooms and the concession stand would remain in place. And a walking trail that is meant for people to be able to not be walking in the street. And if you've ever walked on the street there at Riverside, sometimes it's tough. You really have to pay attention to the traffic in that area. So the project also includes the demolition of obsolete park facilities, such as there is a storage building that I think used to be a shower or a restroom or something. In the aging playground equipment that's already there, that equipment was built in 1999, and its general life is 20 years for something like that. And so this is really, it's held on pretty good, but there are some evidence of different problems with it. And we've replaced several pieces in the past, but it's on its, not last leg, but it's still something that needs to be taken care of. And then the existing softball complex to create new recreation opportunities on a multi-use field that better meets current and future community needs. The city parks, the city and the Parks Department employees will use a combination of contracted services, force account labor, and eligible in-kind contributions to complete Riverside Park. City and Parks Department employees will complete selected demolition and site preparation activities using existing staff and equipment. Force account work, which means that we're doing the work, is anticipated to include demolition and removal of the former concrete storage building, removal of the existing 1999 Miracle brand playground equipment, removal of asphalt and fencing from the former basketball court, and demolition of and removal of the softball field, press box, dugouts, and fencing, also the light poles would be removed by the Logansport utilities, and then seeding and fertilizing the former ball field to establish turf. So we've tried to reduce the cost of hiring additional contract employees to do that work. The qualified contractors will complete specialized construction activities through applicable competitive procurement processes. Contract work would include the playground installation and impact attenuating safety surfacing, pavilion construction, accessible trail and pedestrian improvements, parking improvements, and concrete work. And anything else that just really, and then we hope to also be a part of community volunteer participation during Live United Day. We intend to submit this park to Live United Day to engage volunteers for landscaping, tree planting, bench installation, mulch replacement, painting, and general site cleanup. And that will be reported as part of our match, I guess. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say is that forced account labor, volunteer labor can be used as a match to the overall grant. And so I've worked with our maintenance superintendent and utilities and along with the donor for the event pavilion. I feel like I have $153,387 already started in terms of getting to the match. RDC has committed $250,000, and if the city would do $250,000 as well, that would give us a $653,387 match that we would be able to ask the DNR for to match that. So that gives us like about a $1.3 million project to finish up here. Any questions?
Any council questions for Jan?
Did you show a picture of that, did you show a picture of the playground?
Yeah. You want
Can
me
you
to?
show us?
Huh?
Can you show that to us?
Yes.
Turn it around real quick.
You see that? And the nice thing about this also is if I'm able to, I guess sell the playground to the company that I want to do it with, I could be able to put their logo up there in one of those flat surfaces, so it could be a part of the recognition that we would do for that company. So. No, well, the other thing I was going to mention is this has been a part of the CIP to do this playground for the since 2023. I went back and looked at how many times I've done this. It has been in there for all those years. So, we've mentioned this many years that it was coming and we were going to do this at some point. So.
And Jan, is this playground will be completely ADA accessible?
Yes, it will. Yes. Yeah.
And I had a question on the train. You're wanting to take the existing train and tracks out, correct?
We're not taking anything out at this time.
So the existing train's going to stay?
Yes.
Tracks and everything, tunnel?
Yeah, all that's going to stay. That's.
For good or for just a couple of years?
I think that if the carousel is committed to making sure that train stays, that's our obligation to allow that train to stay. That's part of the lease, and I get that. I understand that.
Jim, Dan, do you want to come up and say anything on this since we're on this issue? I mean, I don't know if this is getting out of order. I know I asked people to sign up, but because you're involved in this, I'd like to get your comments now before.
Well, good evening and thanks for inviting me and listening to our side of the. Let's just start and say I've been to, I think, 6 meetings where every meeting was a discussion on the train and, of course, the roadway going all the way around Riverside Park, which I think is very important. The very first meeting, they had a roundabout in. So that's where it started, and we got really involved, and we think that it should stay with some improvements. You and I discussed that, and I agree with you. And we'd even like to enlarge the track if it fits into your plans. We do have a lease, and if they want to buy a train and put it in, this town was a train town at one time. So I'm all for that, but we'd like to keep ours. And whatever it takes, we'll do it. Our board is 100% behind it, so.
You know, like we talked, with this not being involved in this phase now, Dan, you've got 4 or 5 years
Yes,
minimum
certainly.
to
And
be
we
looking
appreciate
at the
that.
improvements that you need to make this be an asset
Even
for
this
years to
plan
come.
this is different than the last one.
Well, that's what I
so
say, this is different than when we
Sure.
talked,
Totally agree.
so.
Any questions? Glad to answer them.
Carousel board is on board, no okay with everything?
100%,
Yep.
yes.
Okay.
We voted, and there's members here that can go along with it.
And you want to comment on some of the safety concerns of the existing train? In the meeting I watched the other night.
That keeps getting brought up, and people rent the park, and we're told that certain people don't want the train to run for safety's sake. It has derailed. There's never been, in 48 years that it's been there, never been anyone hurt. If it is, it's not on file with the police department, or it's never been in the newspaper. And to be truthful with you, we have a maintenance guy that got sick, and there's some maintenance things that need to be addressed, and he was a little bit sicker than we thought, and we've been waiting on him, so it's been, there's things that need to be updated on it, and we're willing to do that.
Could you give us an example of that, please?
The
Something like
tracks.
Update tracks?
Track's the big thing.
Okay. What about special needs kids, or handicapped, wheelchair kids? Is there room for them on that train, or
There
talk
isn't.
about that to
But
expand the seats?
we have talked, we have a board member that her husband is an engineer, and he's thinking about trying to get something towards the back that you could push up on a wheelchair and put them in there and go for it. I'm all for that.
Okay. Very good. Thank
And
you.
that's a very good point.
Thank you.
All right, any council comments before we ask the public to speak? Or Jan, are you at a point
Well,
now?
I was just, the other thing I was gonna say about the pavilion, it's called the McCord Pavilion now because McCord has stepped up to help us take care of it, not the city. So, anyway, that's, I personally never wanted to see that, but we were looking at the idea that pickleball really was a big thing. And whether people realize it or not, it is a big thing. And it's not a fad. It's going to keep going. At some point, we're going to have to do some more pickleball courts. But that was the idea. Is we got 2 already. We need some more there if we can. So that was part of the idea. We were looking at additional parking along there to take care of some of the additional traffic that the carousel was already producing. So, there's just never seems to be enough parking when there's a lot of things going on. So, so that's one of the things that we were after. So, but just like the public said, we don't want anything to happen to the Eel River Pavilion there in Spencer Park. And we did listen to everybody, and we did do some work on that, and it looks great now. So, and it's sturdy. It's not going to go anywhere for a long time. So, we do listen to people, and we're not ignorant of that. So, I guess I want people to know that.
I would just comment that because the pickleball courts aren't in the first phase, we're going to have a longer period of time to see, is it still increasing? Is it fading out?
Yeah.
You said you need more pickleball courts, but you have an empty tennis court at Fairview, and you had an empty court at Spencer Park for 3 years. which has done nothing.
Well, and honestly, I tried to get, to do a court at Spencer Park, on that old court, but it is in such bad shape. And, the idea to put a new, court on there meant that we would have to take down some of the large trees that, are in that park. And honestly, I'm just not willing to take those big trees down. I
There's
don't
only
like
one
that.
tree by it, and I've gone up there and cleaned
Oh,
up.
there's one on either side of the court, and there's some on one of the other ends, and both of those are in the way of putting down new pavement there. And so I haven't done any more pavement. I haven't done anything with that.
We paved the whole Spencer Park, but I've gone up there and cleaned the court off myself with a weed eater and stuff. If not, you're gonna use pickleball, you could put a basketball court up there or something, or tennis. But that's sat empty for 3 years. The same at Fairview Park. You want more stuff, but you have something available, but you don't do nothing with it.
I haven't asked, no. I haven't asked anybody to do anything with it.
I brought that up 3 years ago when I started here. And since empty.
Well, BJ, people who play pickleball, they don't want you to just have one single court. They want 2 courts side by side so that they can play, like you can have 4 people on this court and 4 people on this court, and then they play like a little tournament and they switch, so that if you don't play pickleball, you don't understand what people are asking for, and they wouldn't be happy. I mean, they would go play, you know.
I like to have an in-ground pool in my backyard, but it's not that. You know, one court's better than nothing.
Well, you have that conversation with people who play pickleball avidly.
Jan, do you know the dimensions of a basketball court, a tennis court, and pickleball court? Are they relatively the same size?
What about the dimensions?
Are they, between a basketball court, a tennis court, and a pickleball court, what are the size differences in those? Are they relatively the same? If there was a basketball court
They're
here,
official court sizes. We did make sure we did that for the basketball courts and the pickleball. And I think the pickleball is, I think it's 40 by 40 or something like that.
what's a
I
basketball?
can't remember right off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up, but those are official sizes of what they're supposed to be. So,
40 by 40 for pickleball?
yeah,
Is that 1 or 2?
probably one, yeah. 'Cause it seems like it was 100 feet wide and 40 feet long is kind of, I think is what it was.
Okay.
And then the basketball court is like 100 by 50. Something like, it's close to that. I can't remember the exact numbers, but
What about the space at Spencer Park? Would there be room for a pickleball court for just one in that
if we
area?
moved it to someplace, another location, honestly, I think we could do that. But we haven't tried to do any more, because of the dips and the hills and stuff, I haven't tried to find another place to do it. Not to mention that, another place that gets away from parking or restrooms or whatever. So I'm just trying to, I think people really like what's in Spencer Park right now, and what we have there. And,
The standard pickleball court is 20 feet wide by 44 feet long. So you probably get 2 up there if you wanted to side by side.
if you take a tree down.
Yeah, if you
I
take
don't
down-
think you have to take the tree down.
What's the size of the court
Right,
up
but we're
there now?
supposed to be
you know?
looking at this plan about Riverside. We're not supposed to be talking
I
about
know.
pickleball courts at.
But she brought up pickleball courts, she wants more for here, but you
don't-
have other places available, and it sits empty for 3
I
years.
don't need it right now.
And yeah, it's
Yeah.
not even on this
Fine.
proposed thing.
I have one more question. The multi-use field is going to go where the softball field is now, correct? What are some of the uses for the multi-use? I see you're going to put like a pavilion in
Well,
there for shows?
For one thing, if the new event pavilion is built, it means that we can have actual large events, like July 4th would have a stage right there that you're still looking at all the fireworks and things like that. It could be, we just had these foam parties just here this summer. We've done that several times. Things like, big events, kids could play kickball. They can play, we can fly kites out of there. We can do all kinds of things out of just an open field that's not got a lock on it, or a fence around it. And that, the other thing about that people have been using that field for, because it has a fence, is for dogs to go and play in there, and they don't clean up after they don't do that scooping that's required at the dog park. So, but I know that for a fact because I said some things to several people occasionally on that.
What type of rules would there be if I went over there, wanted to play some soccer, and Cam came over and wanted to take a picnic in the same area?
Well, I would say if it were an actual soccer field, a soccer game,
Either or.
that would have to be a permitted, we would have to actually make those arrangements with them. Because I don't know that we want it actually, it would fit a soccer program or a soccer activity, but I don't know that we want a permanent soccer in there all the time, because then it means that other people can't use it for other things. So
Okay, thank you,
I like to keep it as open as possible.
thank you.
Any other questions for council? Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
You want me to go ahead and leave? Or you want me to leave? Sit down? You want me to go sit? You want me to sit here?
No, you can sit there, that's fine.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Mercedes Brew. I live on Market Street. I'm here to ask you to vote yes on this. I've seen how hard it is to appropriate money for maintenance. I see that every year when you vote on the budgets. Looking at the few people who are giving money away for grants, they don't give away maintenance money. They only want to build new things. And you have to, looking at your own life, you know that it's a lot easier to take care of something that's new than it is to take care of something that's old. It may not be what some people would prefer, but I think we should use this opportunity to get this money. So for these reasons, I urge you to vote yes.
Thanks, Mercedes.
Thank you.
Do you want to remind people of
Well, unless, basically, the only request that we had is that if somebody's talked about a topic and you're going to say the exact same thing, there's really no, if you want to come up and just say, I agree with what that person said, but there's no need to repeat everything. The next up is, read this chicken scratch on here. It looks like Mike McCord. Okay, how about Brian Zimmerman?
Thanks for letting me speak. I'm Brian Zimmerman. I live at 122 10th Street. I have for over 30 years. I'm about 2 blocks from Riverside Park. I first want to comment about the trail system. You know, I never used it, but I got an e-bike about 4 or 5 months ago. I put about 400 miles on the trails. I appreciate everybody that was involved in that process, and I know Mercedes was at the forefront, so I appreciate that. You know, one thing I've noticed by doing the trails is the riverbank there. A lot of people are using it. Since the dams are out, you know, you got like a sandbar there. You know, there's people in there swimming, fishing, whatever. It would really be nice, and I think you said it was permitting problem, but that bank, it probably wouldn't take a lot of work to level that all off and have easy access from the bridge all the way down to the end of the Riverside Park. I mean, it's a nice front. And just a simple landscaping would make that beautiful. And then when I came back the other day riding, I thought, well, I'll look at the proposal. So Riverside was, the ballpark was where I first stopped. And there's a lot of history there. A lot of people would not realize how much history is at that park. I used to hear that Major League Baseball teams, when they just used buses, would stop there going to different games and practice there. I know that's old news and all that stuff, and I know there's not as many people involved with that. But to me, with the green space, if you can play soccer there, why can't you play softball or baseball too there? And I know going to baseball fields today, a lot of them don't have fencing. They use netting. I don't know the cost of the netting, but there's a potential that you could have a temporary netting to go for the backstop, or maybe temporary fence to go out into the fence, where the fence is. I don't know the cost of that, but I would hate to see the softball diamond not be able to use as baseball. I do like the idea of possibly using Babe Ruth, which sits empty quite a bit. But still, if you're going to play soccer there, why not be able to play ball too? And then I went to the next section between the field and the carousel. That could definitely be upgraded. That's an area that's old. You've got the golf course, you've got the playground equipment, you've got the old basketball court, and you've got the old horseshoe pit. To me, you've kind of made that kid-friendly. So, continue on that theme. If that's where the new playground equipment is going, I couldn't tell where that was actually going to sit.
I'm still kind of wondering exactly where it's going to be too.
Okay, well, if that's where it's
changed.
going to go,
Yeah.
try maybe make that more kid-friendly, and, potentially even move the train over to there. I don't know. But then I went down, but that to me, I think is open to you guys, what you come up with there. You got some good space there. You've all, like they said, you already got a basketball court, a new, real nice one. You've got real nice pickleball courts where I've used with my grandson. Got my butt beat. But, that is a good sport, and it is on the rise. There's no doubt about that. Would I take up prime space to put? No, I would keep that kind of the segregate the areas. Kids, basketball, pickleball, and then you got your field. But then I went down to the train and I thought, man, you just can't, there's too much history there. If you're going to actually do away with the train, well, move it. Move it to Spencer Park. Move it to Spencer Park, and then people could ride the train and see the Christmas lights, or just be a regular thing there. But I would prefer that it stays there and maybe expanded. And then you go to the pavilion. What a travesty for all the people. You got the carousel right beside the old building. The architecture is amazing. It's just, you're not going to build one like that. To even think about destroying that carousel would be a bad move for this city. If it could possibly be moved in a better location, I don't know anything about that, but I definitely would not destroy that carousel building. That's just be a sad day in Logansport history. So, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Oh, you're up, buddy.
His comments about baseball is, there's a sport called vintage baseball. And they don't use they have bases, but it's really, really elementary. It's like 4 or 5 rules, and you can just play as much as you want on something like that. So that's a good idea.
Right?
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Paul Wilhelm, 630 South 15th Street, Logansport, Indiana. I sent you all a letter from Logansport Landmarks detailing our opposition specifically to the carousel building and the train. We believe it's possible to actually modify the current 1983 historic preservation plan for the site to include the old building. The reason it wasn't included originally in 1983, that building wasn't 50 years old. The building was not eligible, the train was. And that's why, sort of what, like with the memorial home where we've had to make modifications to the historic plan, same sort of thing there. I believe the train would qualify as a historic site, which would open it up, because there are other similar trains in other parts of the country that are on the National Register, and I believe more importantly, it should be on the local historic register, so it's protected permanently. This would open up grant opportunities for the carousel people to be able to maintain this on a regular basis. And I want to talk a little bit about maintenance, because maintenance is very important. This plan that we were shown looks really nice, and when I first looked at it, I thought, well, this isn't bad. And I really looked at it, and I realized what the maintenance costs are going to be on maintaining a 13-acre park of this scope. A lot of the things that are here would be perfectly fine in Houston Park, but in a neighborhood park, I don't know how they're going to work. For example, we're going to have this big lawn. We have a big lawn. It's called Little Turtle, and it's in the sunshine, and nobody uses it. And when I look at this, I go, there's going to be some trees around it, but it's still going to be a big open field that's going to sit there. We're having more pathways to maintain and everything else, but I'm also very concerned about the parking aspects of it. We're going to cut down mature trees to put in parking, and to me, that's just kind of a non-starter. I know we're talking about this phase of it. It's sort of bait and switch. We were all shown this. We're going to do this phase. People have seen this, and just so you know, as of today, there were 277 public comments on this plan, which includes that, 79 shares, and it was viewed by 86,139 people in the Indiana region. There were 277 comments posted that we would be able to link to local people, and not one person said, I support this park plan. The plan was conceived by the park director putting together 2 special invitation stakeholder catered events. This is not a transparent plan. This is a plan without public engagement. It is an orchestration to achieve a desired outcome. Now, I went to the last hearing before the Parks Board. What I heard was an hour and a half of complaints, and the complaints were pretty consistent. There is a lack of maintenance in our park system, and I believe the reason for that lack of maintenance is not a question of can we not maintain it? We can maintain it. It's a question of focus. If we are talking about replacing things every 3 to 5 years with something new and shiny, we're never going to get about the business of actually maintaining what we already have. And I've looked around the parks, and we do have some deferred maintenance. And spending $1.3 million on this phase and maybe $3 million entirely by the time we're all done, that's a big ask in a community that depends on local parks where, you know, it needs painted, it needs cut, it needs cleaned. And a lot of our local parks are severely suffering due to lack of maintenance. And if you look on Facebook at the people who use the parks, they keep saying over and over again, there is a lack of maintenance. We're adding more to our maintenance with this plan. And the last thing I want to say about this is that you're making a $250,000 commitment in 2028. This council will not be here in 2028. There'll be a new council. You will be saddling the next council, whether some of you are here, some of you don't want to run, with a $250,000 obligation, which will really be $1 million because matching grants work that you pay all the money up front, and if everything works out fine, they give you the matching grant back. We went through this with a lot of other grants we've had. You're basically committing $500,000 worth of expense in 2028. We all know the economic reality of where we're headed with the amount of revenue we're getting from the state. We're going to have $1 million less to work with. We've got a lot to do. Erie Avenue could fall in tomorrow, and we're suddenly facing millions of dollars of expense there. I think it would be improper for this council, particularly given the amount of opposition that there is in the public to this overall plan, to approve this money. Free money is nice, but it's never really free. And you're making commitments for the next council that may be facing a severe financial crisis. And I'm talking to the people who actually are listening to what the community has said and has been on Facebook and looked at the comments. I'm not talking to the people that go across to the library, meet before meetings, and decide how they're going to vote. I'm talking to those of you who understand that these people back here, you represent. You don't represent Jan, you don't represent the Parks Board, you represent the public back here. So I'm going to encourage you to do the hard thing, and until we have a real plan that works, and another grant that comes along, because there are always grants coming along, let's not do this right now. Let's worry about what the problems that we have right now, the financial problems that we're going to have in 2027, 2028, and I encourage those of you on the council to follow the community. And right now, the community is hurting financially. Matthew Warren's going to be gone. We're going to lose that tax revenue potentially. We just cannot afford to do this right now. Maybe someday, maybe in 2 or 3 years, we can afford to do this. But given where we're at right now in terms of this economy and the obligations that this council has already committed us to, I don't believe you can do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Okay. Andrew Myers?
Andrew Myers, 31 Frederick Street. I was at the Parks Board meeting on July 8th, as were a few people in this room. And first of all, I want to start out by saying I think it's easy when things matter so much in our community to get negative. And I just want to thank the Parks Board for putting in all the time and the effort to come up with something to try and improve our parks. I think that's very commendable. I would try and encourage the members of that board and the members of this council to do so with community needs in mind. In meaning, what I'm referring to, Mr. Morrissey brought up some of the concerns via email that were given to the council. I'll try and encourage some of the people that have the same stance as me to do the same thing. They were a lot in theme about the train, and I think it's amazing that the Parks Board listened that quickly from July 8th to now about those public concerns about the train, and then changed course on their plans for it and put it in another phase, and sounds like that's going to be protected now. I would ask the same thing about the softball diamond. I believe it was quoted at that meeting, it's 90 years old. It has significant historical value. It's important to the community. I manage a team down there, Local 470, and when we have those games, there's a lot of people from the community, even in the shape that the field's in. And I think a lot of the reason it's not as utilized as it could be is because of the shape that the field's in. And going for this grant, I would encourage you to, instead of replacing the park, to, if you are going to replace it with a diamond that still holds that tradition and can bring in softball. We do have a lot of ball diamonds, but having a men's or adult softball slow pitch field is not the same thing as a Little League park. And I would encourage that we would keep that, maybe modify it so that more attraction comes down to that park, and then maybe it can be better maintained and we wouldn't have as much cost that was brought up. Just another thing, I would encourage, I know it was brought up going potentially to Steinman instead, the Babe Ruth Park. And I know that was talked, that it was mentioned to the softball league and that they were in agreement with that. And I'm not saying they aren't in agreement of that as a contingency plan if it happens to move out of Riverside. But I think I speak for everybody that I've spoken with or played against on the softball field that they would prefer that it stays at Riverside. That's where its home is. That's where its home has been for the last 90 years. And I think it should stay that way. It sounds like with the public outcry being more prevalent, where it wasn't for all the hard work that you guys have put in, it's just now kind of coming to the forefront of everybody's mind. And voting on this expensive decision about, in my opinion, the most important park in this city, I would argue that potentially vote no, and then bring it up later when we have a better plan with more community interest in mind. I'd love to see our softball field protected, as well as some of the other things that people love. And obviously, the Parks Board is very open-minded. They've done that with the pavilion. They've now done that with the train. And my hope would be that they do that with the softball field. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you now.
I apologize, I'm not sure, is it Penny Reinhardt?
Yeah. Hello, I'm Penny Reinhardt, and I am on the board of the Carousel. And my concern is history. We have so much history at this park that we're thinking about taking it out to add other things when we have all these other parks that need love too. You have one at Fairview that has tons of parking because of the baseball. When baseball's done, nobody's playing there. You know what I mean? We could use those spaces for other things for our community instead of having everybody go just to one set park. As far as the carousel, we've already been working on having engineers come in and working on the train and getting it brought up to where it needs to be for the handicap and everybody, as well as making sure the track is running correctly all the time for those concerns. But I think as history, we need to keep our history where it is at and branch out into our other parks and make them more just as active as any other park we have in town. That's all I got.
Thank you, Penny.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, there's no other names, Mike, if you want to come up. Now, I haven't told the others this, but I know how you can be sometimes, so I'm going to mention the 3-minute warning with you. Don't take that personal, but
I understand it.
My name's Mike McCord. I have a couple different hats I wear in this world. I'm a elected school board member for the city of Logansport, and I've been on for 18 years there. I am the representative, been appointed by the school board to stand in their place as a Parks Board member. So my role there is I'm not appointed by the mayor or the city council for that position. I'm actually appointed by the school corporation. And plain and simply, that's about the fact that, there's a lot of needs for parks in the schools. So oftentimes, I'm looking at a bigger picture because I know things are happening in the schools. There's been mention that the parks, or the city of Logansport has lost $1 million. The schools have lost $1.5 million from funding from the state this year. So I understand the pain that you feel. I understand that. I'm also on the Redevelopment Corporation, and that is the group, one of the groups going to help here, but it's a group that helps to get money to the mall and all these different businesses. SUS is now in progress of getting somebody else in there. And so a lot of our job is to try to bring people back. And it's very similar to what was said before. We're worried about Carter Fuel. We're worried about Matthew Warren. And so the thing that's tough is you're trying to make Logansport appealing for people to come here. In the case of our schools, that park is, we have 74% poverty in our schools. And a lot of those kids can't even afford to go to Indiana Beach. So, as we debate the stuff we have, and I say sometimes this stuff, the money that's going to be used is not necessarily taxpayers and the fact that we could have either fixed a road or done this instead. Sometimes it's based on economic development. Sometimes it's based on what we need to do overall for the city. I, for one, this is going to sound sappy, but I love Logansport. I love Cass County. And a while back, I think I've been on maybe the Parks Board for maybe 10 years or less, but we had a whole changeover there. We went to a meeting with the folks at the Carousel. We went to their board meeting. And from what I gathered was, they needed more traffic at the carousel. And that's one of our shining, things that we have in Logansport. So starting back then, I'm trying to think about, well, how can we bring more people down to there? The fact that the playground is next to the carousel is no mistake. We need to have kids that are playing on the playground and say, hey, Mom, could I go on the carousel? You could hear the calliope music and all this stuff. And so to get from the playground now to there, you have to go past the miniature golf course. I wanted to have kids down there because of that. This thing whole kind of started in my mind is trying to help the carousel people. The fact of the train thing, you say, a lot of this stuff is just poor communications. And I probably am as guilty as anybody to be willing to say, because of the school and that kind of stuff, you got to be transparent. This idea that someone mentions, yeah, we went over to a corner someplace and made some discussion. There are some really great people that try to work for this community and try to make this a better place to live. And it hurts me sometimes to read the social media and get their slant on things, and it's not even close to true. In this case here, the Parks Department, they run it about a 5-year master plan. And they got to present this thing, and you need to have that master plan to try to get some of these grants. But the fact is, if we don't, I talked to the carousel people about a different type of train being there 5 years ago at your meeting, and I talked to to Dave Harden. I've talked to you. We walked the field down there. We talked about that 5 or 6 years ago because it was out there in this 5-year master plan that it could happen. This stuff didn't all happen overnight. However, I say whip us because we are guilty as charged of having our communication be very confusing. None of this stuff was going to be done today, but we have to continue to try to tell people, this is the 5-year plan, this is where we want to head to. I'm trying to say, hey, we got to get people in here to take Carter Field's place and Matthew Warren's place, and if you could take them, drive them through, I remember being in a meeting one time where Bill Cuppy said the neighborhood for a while was a mess down there, and to get someone to come see our carousel, you had to try to avoid a bunch of streets so that it looked as nice as possible. And then now then we had the event center. So there's all kinds of things that I see that, because I'm in different positions. And by the way, I don't speak for any one of them here tonight. We are only a council or commission when we are joined together at a meeting. So this is Mike McCord's opinion, this is not the other stuff. It is the stuff though, and I'll just mention this. The pickleball courts, from the school board side of things, when they put their new tennis courts in, they modified all 14 of those courts could be used for pickleball. And for your dimension's sake, basically there's a sideline on each tennis court where you play singles and doubles. Imagine the size of the pickleball is it's take off those 2 lanes, a little bit shallower in depth. And we got with the school corporation, said, hey, they got a problem down there. People are complaining they don't have this stuff. Now, if you go to the school corporation, those are pickleball versus tennis courts. They're both. And even the school said, well, probably a good idea. A lot of these kids could be doing this in gym class. What's the problem? Well, the net is at either 36 inches for one of the sports and 30 inches of the other. It'd be 30 inches for pickleball. And the idea is you take that strap in the middle and you pull it over, and that brings the net down to 30 inches. Unfortunately, they don't put it back when they're done. So then you got people that are complaining the tennis court height net is not right. It is if you pull it back to the center of the court. So somewhere that whole project, you have 14 pickleball courts that are ready to be used. They've had some tournaments there for pickleball, and the school is trying to cooperate because the school has a representative on the Parks Board. So in that case, there's a symmetry of me saying, hey, they got a problem. They got people wanting this, so what could we do to do that? We could do our courts, they resurfaced them all. What could we do to help? That's working together. That's loving Logansport. So anyway, it's an area that, that somebody, nobody, obviously you guys weren't aware of that, but that all happened inside of the world, and it's just bad communication. They talked to the Parks Board, they talked about this, and I think you guys probably had to authorize it of some sort, but the reality is, there's 14 more pickleball courts that virtually everybody in this room doesn't know about. But how do we make some kind of graphic that tells them, how do you need to make it like that, and how do you get it back? And I say, so the athletic director up there, they just, it's not they're not pushing it, it's just that people complain because the nets aren't the right height. Okay, so that's that there, and I'm saying again, this other stuff, the stuff with the train and stuff like that, I had my grandkids were here this weekend, we went down, rode the train. As I say, a lot of the train originals problem was, in the long haul picture, it used a bunch of green space at different places, and you couldn't add a pavilion there because you're really walking across the tracks to get to it. So that was something we've been talking about, though, since that meeting like 5 years ago. I'll send all you guys a copy, but there's a train system in Indianapolis that they have, and it's happening. This is crazy, but it's through a hardware store there called Sullivan's Hardware. They have their train in the parades. They have, because they're a gardening type business, they have dead space. So when they have a Halloween program, you ride this train, and one thing I like, and again, this is not, I understand the memories people have and that kind of stuff. My dad used to drive a different train at Riverside Park as a JC's member. And, so we were proud that he drove that same. So I've got the same blood running through me with the memories. However, like when I went down there Sunday, the young man there said, well, it can only be kids. You can't have adults ride on this. And I said, well, there's a sign out there that says parents can ride with small children or something like that. So anyway, they ended up letting us, it's great because I'm here in my mind, again, I'm trying to help the carousel. I'm thinking, gosh, you're not getting money that way. So they ended up letting my daughter and my wife ride on that thing. I said, I'm suspicious. I'm probably over the weight limit. So, they got to do that. Okay. Anyway, into that is, and I'll just say this. What I've learned through school board stuff is that you need to, in this world we live in, social media is not the 100% truth of everything. And in my days with the school board, in 18 years, I've had lots of parents that have had issues. And if they would come and sit with me and talk for an hour, we can go through all of them. And it can explain, well, this is how this works in financing. In our schools right now, we have the same issue. You guys, they got our, the temporary protected status students are coming back. Well, we get money, head count money. And in our case, as a school corporation, we're not allowed to turn anybody away. We teach every kid. So all I'll say is that, the confusion and all the upsetness here, a lot of stuff's not going to happen for 5 or 6 or 7 years. So we made a mistake of trying to keep people in the loop of all the things that could possibly happen and messed it up. That's it. I'll take any questions anybody's got to it.
Jason, do you have anything you want to say?
Just a couple things. Social media has been, there's been a lot of vultures on there. And there's people that are saying things that aren't necessarily true. They weren't at the meeting, and they probably, I don't blame them. They weren't going to sit and watch a 2.5-hour hearing on a grant. So you get that. What I would say is this. The Parks Board, the Parks Department will get $0 that it doesn't ask for. And if you're talking about a $250,000 investment for a $1.3 million project, that's a pretty good return on investment. Nobody's going to take $250,000 to a bank and next year turn it into $1.3 million off of a CD or a savings account. So, but I also defer to the council because you guys are the ones that have to run the budget. So if the council decides, hey, we're not going to be able to do it, I will perfectly respect that opinion. I'm not going to be upset about that. I get it. It's not that some of these other concerns are not valid. Yeah, we have some financial problems that are coming in a couple of years. I get it. But once again, our job, the police, the firemen, the street department, our job is to come and ask for these things that we need. And it's your job then to decide whether or not you're going to pass that. The last thing I would say, again, there's been so much negative stuff being posted online. That's just not true. People accusing the Parks Department, the Parks Board, or the Parks Administrator
of trying to destroy history and just rip this out and rip the, no, the whole point behind the train was that it was supposed to be a new way to get people on the train that were disabled. Entire families could ride the train. It's not on a track. It could be driven anywhere in the park, that there's pavement. The point was not, hey, this other train, we don't like it, we're going to get rid of it. The point was, let's make something better for the community. Let's improve something that we already have. We have a train at Riverside Park. Let's improve it. So it was never an intention. And that's what bothers me the most are people that just claim completely wrong things about the intention of the Parks Board. And rather than, they emailed you, that's great. I've not received any email. I don't know how much email Jan gets, but all we see are these posts on Facebook. And it's super easy to sit behind a keyboard and complain. But it's not as easy to write an email and say, I've got this concern. Will you explain this? Will you tell me what's going on with this? And that's a problem. I think that's a problem in the community. And so with that having been said, like I said, I will respect whatever this board decides to do. But I'm not going to apologize for asking for money to do this kind of return on investment to improve the park. I think it's right to ask, and then I think whatever you decide to do is going to be the right thing to do. So that's all I've got.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
All right. That wraps up all the people that requested to speak at the meeting. Council have any thoughts that they want to share, or?
I certainly do. I would like to say that you're very fortunate if you have someone that is the head of a department in your city that is capable and willing to apply for a grant. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. I think that I feel like if you have someone that's willing to do that work and that you're looking at spending $250,000 to get $1.2 or $1.3 million worth of work, this is how small towns get big things done. You're not going to have this kind of money laying around in Logansport waiting to invest in Riverside Park. It's not going to happen. And for those who think that with the present administration, grant money is going to become more readily available, I disagree with that. I think that if you have the opportunity now to get grant money, you better take it. And I totally support Jan's work and opportunity to apply for this grant. And I think that this is the only way Logansport can get big things done is through applying for money from other resources.
Just FYI, the reason that it had to be so quick to come about was because I thought they were not going to give any grants out this year. But they decided that, because they took and used it all for state last year.
Right.
But they decided to do it every other year, and this is the year to apply for this grant. We will not be able to get to apply again until 2026.
So we're fortunate to have this opportunity.
It's the only grant that's meant for small communities like ours. I mean, there's an urban grant as well that big cities can go after that, and it's a lot more money. But this is the only one that we're eligible, and it helped build France Park. It helped build Houston Park. We had 2 grants with Houston Park, and this helped do the basketball courts and the pickleball court in that area there at Riverside. So this is really about the only grant that parks departments can go after for park and recreation activities, for infrastructure. So.
And a grant opportunity is what created our farmers market and our and our kitchen. So that's where that money came from. We don't have $5 million laying around to build something like that either.
Cam, you have any thoughts?
What funds are we predicting to pull the $250,000 out of?
Well, if you read the resolution that's in front of you, I had proposed that we take 50,000 out of the CEDAT fund this year. And the other 200,000 we would determine next year as we worked on the budget. It would be part of the Parks Board budget, would be implemented through their budgeting process. That's the way I see it right now, Jim.
I think it's a good plan. I think it's bad timing. We lost Kaufman Engineering, Carter Fuel, and we're about to lose Matthew Warren. If we're gonna do $250,000, I think we gotta apply that towards getting a new manufacturing, a new business in town that will get good jobs, not parks. There'll be nobody here to enjoy the parks if these people, there are 350 people approximately from these three companies that are gonna be without work. I think it's a bad time for this.
They're gonna need the parks even more now.
Pardon?
They're gonna need the parks even more now.
Because they have no jobs, yeah. Let's get them jobs and keep,
I
let's
mean,
get them
this-
jobs, keep them working, get the revenue coming in, then let's come back with your
I'm
plan.
just saying that parks are gonna be more important to those people who are out of work now than they were before because they can't be doing things that they
Because they're
would
not
have
gonna
paid
be
to do.
working.
But it still
Thank you,
comes down
Scott.
to having the opportunity.
BJ, what about, what's your thought? You want any closing thoughts on this?
I look at a lot of different things over the past year, and I know people complain what I say, but we just keep giving and giving and giving the parks everything. I mean, let alone this year. I know you're going for a grant and everything, but we forked out $623,000 in the GO bond for all your equipment and stuff. There was $50,000 last year on a van. I haven't seen it on the street one time.
Because it's in the parks. We
I
don't
go by
drive
the
around
parks.
on
I
the
haven't
street
seen it.
and take it to a park.
You know, we took care of the lower Spencer Park last year, but it's more and more and more for the parks. There's other departments out there, and your CIP for the next 4 years is the highest in the city. And police and fire is only around 5 million because they're trying to get a new aerial, which that probably won't happen, and a small south side station, and they'd be lucky if they get that. So I'm mixed on both, but when does it stop?
Well, it doesn't stop. You keep developing and you keep
Let's
making
develop and bring in businesses here that's gonna support this.
Well,
You know,
the
supposedly
way-
we're supposed to have a building being built over there at Patriot Park. Nothing's happened there, but we took all the equipment out. You know,
But I
we're
was
waiting on apartments down there at
The way that
General
you
Tire.
The way that you get people to move to a city is that you have good protection, fire and police, you have good schools, and you have good parks and trails. That's how you get people to move to your city. That's what makes us be able to be. Right, but people can Logansport's a great retirement community. This is a great place to live if you retired. It's inexpensive to live here. It's a great place to land, so.
We need jobs now. When children graduate, they're not coming back here.
No, I understand.
They're
I
going
agree.
elsewhere to live and work. We need them to come back here and work in a high-paying job right here in Logansport.
Right.
That should be number one.
Right, but you can't say that Bill Cuppy's not out there every day doing the job that it takes to try to attract new businesses to
Is
this
he looking
town.
for big businesses? is he?
You can ask Bill Cuppy that. I'm not speaking for him.
Chris, I skipped you. I didn't mean
Oh,
to.
that's okay.
I forgot you were back from vacation.
No, that's okay. No, I echo Scott. I think the timing's wrong. I understand the need to improve the parks. But my personal feeling is we're looking at a huge deficit in '28. And I don't want to saddle, I'm not going to say I'm going to be here in '28. I'm not going to saddle the next council and tell them, you know, they're going to have to make some cuts. while we're setting aside money 2 years in advance. So I'm against it.
Or Haley?
A couple of things. I would just agree that I would thank the Parks Board that it was very quickly listened to everybody to save the pavilion, save the train, and I think that would be a great compromise. I know that there are lots of concerns, like the maintenance and maybe the timing isn't great, but I would hope that this would move forward still. I'd also like to say thank you for the emails that we received, because the misinformation and ranting and raving on Facebook are things that I sometimes just can't read, so I appreciated the emails that we got.
All right, I'll just say my piece, I guess, is I know there's concerns with the finances. I know Paul's brought them up. I would just say to everyone here that a couple things have played in. We have the finances in place. I believe we still have time to continue to build on what we have in our finances. We have plenty of reserves. We've prepared for this for the last 2-3 years because the rhetoric's been out there about tax cuts and
Yeah, but our reserves are helping pay for our trash pickup too.
Pardon?
I said our reserves are gonna run out.
Well, I'm saying to you that we're going to have 2 or 3 more years to build on that. I'm telling you my financial opinion, Chris, and I respect your opinion on this. I would just, I think this is the perfect time for us to invest $250,000 in our parks, because we know that we have those funds. We know that if we get the grant, it capitalizes that money to $1.3 million. It's a benefit. When you're looking for ways to save money, this is a way to save money and still improve on the environment that we live in. We have focused, BJ's right, we've spent a lot of money in our parks in the last 4 or 5 years. And the reason being is it's the one way that we can give back to the entire community. And you can go to the park and it doesn't cost you a dime. I go by, maybe I'm a little prideful, but I go by Spencer Park and I smile. I go by Fairview. We've improved every park in our community, and the reason that we've worked on them so hard is because with the last tax changes that came into place, the inability of the city to keep those parks up like they should have been was taken away. So we have an opportunity here to invest $250,000 to improve on that park, get it in a position where we can get through these rough times and come out and still have nice amenities for our public. Now, Scott talks about jobs. I'm all about jobs too, Scott, but we have a TIF board. We have an economic development. They have the funds. We have funds that we could help supplement that issue with. But they're the driving force for us on that front. And the other driving force on that front is that we all have to be careful what we say in public, because as you know, if you read social media or anything, it's out there for everyone to see. That's all I'm saying. People are free to do what they want on social media, but it all reflects on our community, just like what we do up here reflects on our community. I believe that this is a prudent time to do things. I'm as concerned about you guys are with jobs, but I think this is a balancing act that we can afford to do at this time, and I think we should vote to, or at least consider to move it to give them the opportunity to apply for the grant. So that's my thoughts on that. With that, just to make it a consensus, Chris, what's your decision?
No.
Not to move it forward? Susie?
No.
Yes.
Pam?
No.
DJ?
No.
Okay, it dies here. And with 6:40, that closes the finance meeting. We'll move to the special council meeting.
Just out of curiosity, and this is for Jan too. I don't, what did Tyson's input have to do? Did Tyson's input anything? Did Tyson's put an input in? They put a lot of money down there in that park.
Yeah. I said I didn't see that. Unfortunately. Can I ask, if you're not going to stay for the special council meeting, can I ask that you leave so we can continue with our business? If you're staying for the next meeting, I would ask that you sit down. If you're not, I would ask you to have your conversation in the hall. Thank you. No problem. Okay.
Chris asked that you wait for him to return.
Yeah, we'll wait on him.
Say more about that trash.
That was enough. I just wanted to let everybody know. That was fine.
Want to talk about that anyway? Nobody want to talk about it anyway?
Yeah. Okay. All right, everyone's back now. I'm going to open this. This is a public hearing at 6:42 on the wheel tax proposal that's before the council. On May the 4th, the council held a finance committee meeting that Andy Mauser attended to explain the reasoning for the city's desire to implement a city wheel tax. Notice of the hearing today was published on July the 10th in the Ferris Tribune. And I'm going to read you a section out of the state Senate Bill 179 that was passed in the short session in the spring. And this is out of that. It says, a county may not, after December 31st, 2026, impose a county vehicle excise tax on a vehicle that is registered in an adopting municipality in which a municipal vehicle excise tax is in effect. So what that is saying to the public is, if you're paying a county excise tax now, it will be a city excise tax in 2027. There will no longer be a county tax on your registration. The approval of the city's ordinance will amount to the current wheel tax and vehicle excise tax on an individual's, well, I'm repeating myself a little bit there. The major benefit of doing this is that currently the countywide wheel tax that is in place through state guidelines, the city's portion of the amount raised is based on a formula of population and center line road mileage. However, because Cass County is under $50,000 in population, the formula is weighted 80% towards center lane mileage, which is road miles, and just 20% to population. Most recent estimates put that around 18% of that money then goes to Logansport, nearly 79% for the county, with the other small cities and towns making up the remainder. Logansport, by reference, makes up about 48% of the county population. Basically, this means that all city dollars under the current system don't stay in the city. With the change to a city excise tax, all money paid through registration comes back to the city. And the last reason for this is for the city to make this change is that having the city taxes in place will make the city eligible for a miles direct distribution starting in the summer of 2027. This will increase funding for our streets. All funds collected can only be used for street paving, as has always been the case. Is there anyone that wants to make any public comments on the public hearing? Okay, with that, I'll close the public hearing at 6:45. All right. We have a special council meeting. So if we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Roll call, Mike.
E.J. Cox.
Present.
Chris Howard.
Present.
Cameron Austin.
Present.
Haley Zinsmaster.
Present.
Scott Petey.
Present.
Susie Wamsley.
Present?
Dave Morris.
Present. Comments of the mayor. Well, I read his comments earlier about the Finance Committee meeting. We will skip the reports from committees, boards, and commissions until the August meeting. We have old business. Haley, would you like to read ordinance 2026-17?
Ordinance 2026-17, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Cass County, Indiana, imposing a municipal wheel tax. And I would ask for a vote on ordinance 2026-17 on its second reading.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, we'll take a roll call vote on ordinance 2026-17.
E.J. Cox.
Yes.
Chris Howard.
Yes.
Cameron Howard. Cameron Austin.
Yes.
How many Howards do we have here?
Haley Zinsmaster.
Yes.
Scott Petey.
Yes.
Susie Wamsley.
Yes.
Dave Morris.
Yes. Ordinance 2026-17 passes 7-0. Under new business, we have ordinance 2026-22. DJ, you want to read that?
Ordinance 2026-22, ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, appropriating additional local income tax lit funds for the police and fire departments. First reading. Mr. Morris, I ask for a vote on ordinance 2026-22.
Any discussion? I would like to move to have ordinance 2026-22 passed on first reading. I'd like to suspend the rules and pass this on first reading. A reason being, after this was written, we realized we only needed a resolution for this. So we went ahead and didn't change it. So it's not necessary to have two readings on it. So I'd like to just suspend the rules.
Second on suspending the rules.
Any discussion on that? Mike, would you take the vote?
This is for suspending.
Yes.
Cameron Austin.
Yes.
Dave Morris.
Yes.
Chris Howard.
Yes.
E.J. Cox.
Yes.
Scott Petey.
Yes.
Haley Zinsmaster.
Yes.
Susie Wamsley.
Yes.
Now we'll have the vote on ordinance 2026-22. Mike, you want to?
Cameron Austin.
Yes.
Dave Morris.
Yes.
Chris Howard.
Yes.
B.J. Cox.
Yes.
Scott Petey.
Yes.
Haley Zinsmaster.
Yes.
Susie Wamsley.
Yes.
Ordinance 2026-22 or 22 passes on first reading by a vote of 7-0. Are there any public comments? Come on up, Jan.
I look at the two items that you've approved here, and one is a wheel tax to take care of roads, and the other is an LIT fund that takes care of police and fire. Where else are you going to get money for Parks Department work? And you've been doing that with the GEO bond, because you also took away all capital funding in our regular annual budget. We didn't get very much of that this year. It was all GO bond, and we didn't get a regular budget, so, for capital improvement. So I guess I guess maybe I'm making a last-ditch effort. I just feel like there isn't any other way for us to get this money unless you approve it through your budgeting and the GO bonds. We just haven't, and we have had a lot of deferred maintenance from many years of neglect because the funds were never available for the Parks Department. It's always been available for police and fire and wheel taxes, but never for the parks. And the only way we get it is through property taxes. I get that. And, I just feel like this is a big deal. And honestly, I don't know where to go from here. I don't, as far as the grant request, I spent a lot of time on this. I still have a $50,000 outstanding debt for the work that we've done on this grant at this point, so I still need to pay for that. And, I just, you really let me down. And I'm happy to say that to you. I feel like this isn't gonna go anywhere anymore, so.
Yeah, you're right, Jan. There's always the money for the police and the fire, and you're not wrong about that. And we spend a lot of money taking care of those things. But that's part of the thing, just like I said about parks, that makes your city be, it makes it, we're a good place to come. And you have to show people that you have safety, but you also have to have good schools, which is gonna become a real problem. Same as you have to have good schools, you have to have good parks, and you're not wrong about what you're saying, and I really respect your opinion.
Well, the only other thing I was gonna say to you too is before you close this meeting, the golf course, when it was time to come to build a new clubhouse, what had to happen first? The first thing was we had to get you guys to buy into the project. And you did. And and along with that, then other people were happy to join in and be a part of it. And that's how it got done. It didn't get done just with you, and you'll see that in this book. It was a team effort to make sure it was done with lots of people. And I can't go back and ask anybody else. If you're not gonna support it, I can't go back and ask other people to support it as well. And I'm hoping to get other people to come on board with maybe paying for the playground or maybe paying for a shelter. But why would they do that now that you guys have all said no? And you've really disappointed me. And there are a lot of people, you've heard from all these negative people, but there's a lot of people out there that like what we're doing, are proud of our parks, and happy to be a part of what we're doing in the Parks Department. And, anyway, it's a huge disappointment.
How much money have you got last year from the GO bonds? BJ, do you have those figures? You said 600 and some $1,000?
It's $623,000 for all the equipment you bought.
Okay.
I'm not saying that there wasn't a lot of money
You're
spent.
saying you couldn't count on us, and you got 600 and
I'm not
some
saying,
thousand.
I didn't say that.
You just said you couldn't count on us.
Just now, yeah. Because the other thing is that the 50,000, I still have an outstanding bill here to pay. Okay? And then the 200,000, put it in our budget. I don't care. Put it in our budget, and that's our capital funds for that year. But because that's about where we always go to. And, we'll be doing a lot of the work ourselves anyway. So we're not going to have time to do a lot of other projects that year anyhow. So, you know, I just feel like, yes, you did let me down this time. But at the same time, I don't think anything that you've done with the GEO bond was uncalled for or unnecessary, because those parks look great now. They look wonderful.
That was an improvement.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what we ought to do with Riverside Park, too. And
That's a good plan, but now is just not the time to do it.
Yeah, well, let's see how long it takes for your government to be able to hand out grants again. That's gonna, they do away
Okay.
with SNAP benefits, they do away with all the, anything that has to do with helping people, they've cut all of that. But you think in a couple years that's gonna change, and I disagree.
well, I you know, this,
Jen,
I won't
we
be
will-
here at that time.
No, we will deal with your outstanding bill.
Okay, I would appreciate that.
Yes. Okay, any other public comments? Council member comments?
You say we're gonna deal with her $50,000 debt, out of what? Council funds?
We'll have to discuss it, Scott. It's not gonna be discussed tonight. This meeting's
I understand.
wrapping
We're gonna
up.
discuss it?
Huh?
We're gonna discuss it, you say?
Absolutely. That's what we just did with the current proposal.
Okay.
Any other council comments? I'll just make one last comment, and I'm not directing it at anyone. We sit and we make difficult decisions. We take a lot of public, you know, I don't know that anyone ever runs for council with the expectation of getting such wonderful coverage on Facebook and wherever you might want to see it. I don't think any one of us seven takes what we do lightly. I do respect, I may not agree with the decision, but I do respect the opinion of every council member here. And we have a lot of work ahead of us. And I wish that if you had financial concerns, that maybe you came and talked to me a little bit more about them. It concerns me when we listen to outside references. I have told you guys we're gonna have to tighten our belt. But one way to tighten our belt is to take advantage of opportunities. But with that being said, I respect the vote of everyone here. And unless we have any miscellaneous business in any matter not already considered, including ADA Section 504 compliance or concerns, I take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Mike?
Susie Wamsley,
Yes?
Kelly Zinsmaster,
Yes.
Cameron Austin,
Yes.
BJ Cox,
Yes.
Chris Howard,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Dave Morris.
Yes.
Do we all have to sign that wheel tax paper, Dave?